Hey everyone, welcome back to 123 Eyes on Me. My name is Aaron, aka Mr. Jackson. Here we talk about all things education, what's working, what's not, and things to improve. Our goal is simple: help the kids succeed. Today we have Jonovan with us. Care to give us a little introduction?
Sure. My name is Jonovan Cooper. I'm a musician and teacher, professor at North Carolina A&T State University, and happy to be here today.
Sounds good. Thanks for being here. All right, so I like to start off with a little game with my guests. I call it one for one. I give you one word and then you just say one back that comes to mind. It doesn't have to be the first word or anything. So I have a total of 4 words. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, first word, school.
Education.
All right, second one is teacher.
Educator.
I like it. Third one is money.
Resources.
Nice. And then the last one is time.
Managing.
Good. I like that one. So with money, you said resources. So what were you thinking when you said resources? Were you thinking from like a personal perspective or coming straight from the school itself?
Actually, both. First, I thought personal, but of course, in the school setting, it's important. So yeah, it was kind of some of both.
Really cool. And then of course, time, management. I feel like us being teachers, it's pretty straightforward what that means. Tell me a little bit about your background, whether it's teaching or administrative experience.
I've been teaching in, I guess, organized settings as far as multiple students. I taught privately for a while before teaching in schools, but in schools since 2005. And university settings, I've taught middle school, high school as well. And I've also taught, I guess, university age students, but like in seminary schools and specific jazz schools and things like that.
Oh, nice.
As far as administration, for a little while, I was kind of the head of a jazz program, jazz department while I was in Ethiopia.
Oh, cool. So when it comes to your class size, do you have multiple classes of, I don't know, 5 to 10 students, or is it a larger group?
A lot of it is like that, 5 to 10 students, but not some of them like that, probably no more than 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, more of a personal note. I actually am a huge fan of jazz. I went to school for classical piano, but jazz was always something I was really interested in. Jazz, neo soul, things of that nature.
Cool.
So, it's too bad that, those programs aren't as large as we'd like them to be. I feel like when it comes to a lot of school programs, they don't really focus on the other genres. Do you see that as well? Or every school is a little different, of course?
No, that's definitely the case. And it's actually pretty difficult for jazz educators also to kind of push jazz in the schools too. They mostly want the classical music.
Yeah, the Western side of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a blessing that you're there at A&T. It's a really great school.
Nice.
But yeah, so when it comes to teaching, so what's one thing that you really enjoy? Like something you would even do for free if you could?
I guess the actual teaching. I mean, offering advice, one, because I like telling students about things that's not necessarily their what they're trying to perfect, but also just little pointers, things like for instance, my instrument is saxophone. I have constantly I'll give like little mini lessons for saxophone students or things like that, or little lessons on improvisation. I do I do that for free a lot. So things like that, just helping them get better.
That's really cool. I like that. I feel like when it comes to teaching, I was never a huge fan of it, honestly. And when I went into it, it kind of just fell in my lap. And it was something that I didn't really think about doing, but I would tell people, oh yeah, when I get out of school, I'm gonna, become a teacher. Because it was, it was the norm. A lot of people were doing it, whether the system was failing or not. The rotation was pretty quick, but it was good in the sense that if people, when people end up leaving for whatever reason, you have a whole bunch of new graduates coming into the field. So, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it, but there's just so many issues with the system itself, and I just couldn't be a part of it anymore. So here we are now in this podcast.
Yeah.
But there's just, there's a lot of good things in schools. At the same time, there's a lot of things that I would like to fix, and that I know a lot of others agree with as well. Which gets into our final question. When it comes to teaching, I know you mentioned you were in middle school and high school, not necessarily public, but it's still working with students. So what's one thing that you would change if you could? And then how do you think you would go about making that happen?
Mm. So, one thing that I noticed was kind of the inclusion of the education. Now, I will say that the where I was, it was at an international school in Ethiopia where I was
Hmm.
teaching the middle school and high school students. So, because it was an international school, we I kind of had freedom to include as much as I wanted. So I would include things from each because we had people from everywhere. So cultures from different countries in Africa, different countries in Europe, and things like that, the Americas as well. And I think if another teacher was there, they might not have gotten the same education.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I think so for me in general, like even coming back here and it's not much difference even with the university. We still focus more on Western history, Western music, Western everything.
Yeah.
So to include more things from Africa, more things, and if you think, if even if you're just in America, from African Americans, those type things that's just missing, and we have to do so much more to get it input into the system.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah. I was talking with one of my friends a while back, and, as you mentioned, a lot of the history books have taken out a lot of information that is needed, and
Mhm.
so this relates exactly to that. I do believe we need to bring those things back and then incorporate more because, it's safe to say that so much has already been taken out.
Yeah.
But I like that a lot. And then also, I like to point out what you said. If someone else was there teaching with you, or even by themselves in Ethiopia, they would learn something completely different. Can you expand on that a little bit? What exactly did you mean?
So with the music, for instance, two different schools I taught at. One was more of a British school, so it was really that one was really open.
Hmm.
So when I say that, they weren't even really following me so much on what I was teaching, as long as the students performed at the end. So so if another teacher came, the students probably had a different education. So the system, it wasn't kind of viable. Like it wasn't consistent there.
Hmm.
The other school was an American school, and things were more consistent. But we followed the NAFME. However, with it, when you include once you do it, you can include things from all over or not. One thing that the head of the school pointed out to me when they hired me is that he didn't like being in an African situation and everybody was learning all Western music. Like they're doing and not even when I say Western, not even like necessarily just American Western, where
Hmm.
they didn't even get jazz or things like that. It was all classical, or even if it wasn't classical, it was like rock, country, things like that.
Hmm.
And you
Wow.
have all these African students there learning this. So yeah.
Yeah, that is a shame. That's a lot. And I hate to say the term whitewash, but I mean that's honestly what it is. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm
Exactly.
not a fan of sugarcoating on this podcast, so
Okay.
the truth needs to be out there. So with the demographics, yeah, we definitely need to incorporate all cultures when it comes to music, all the fine arts. And,
Mhm.
a lot of things we're gonna do it this way. There's no other right way. And that's not right. I don't think that's right at all. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. And it's interesting that you weren't even in the country, you were in Ethiopia and they're still doing the same thing there.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, like how long are they gonna keep this up?
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, I'm really glad. I had no idea that you went there. That's really cool, and that experience is very telling. It's good that you said it because it's not the greatest thing that happened, but we're here, so it's good that people talk about this and they can find a way to improve. So yeah, so the last question I guess I have, kind of a bonus question, going off of what you said when you're in Ethiopia. Would you have wanted to stay there longer? Would you have wanted to bring another teacher or two with you to help you out?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that experience and I enjoyed being there. It was kind of a tough decision to actually come back here
Mm,
because like I said, even though I was in that place, I was free to teach how I wanted to.
right.
So it was perfectly fine for me. And since even I've been here, my first year, I've been talking to some music ed students
Hmm.
and just getting the interest, trying to interest them into teaching outside of the country. Because I know a lot of people don't think about that, but it's so much work in international education that I know I wasn't told about it as a student.
Hmm.
So we're just trying to get that word out, because it's just great to do that also.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have loved to have someone to help kind of mentor in that situation.
Yeah, I have heard that there's a lot of international positions, if you will. And I wasn't told that either. I found out for myself later on. But I like how you put it, because the more that I think about it, education really is a universal language. And it shouldn't be subjected to certain areas in the world. It should be a universal thing. We should all have equal access. Even in America, with all the states we have and territories, they're all doing something different.
Yeah.
And, like fifth graders are doing, I don't know, algebra one at one school, but then in another state, they're doing that in seventh grade. I'm just like, why are they 2 years ahead? Like, what is going on? And it's just, I don't know, it's ridiculous. So uniformity and unity is definitely what we need to strive for as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jonovan, that was great. I really appreciate you coming on the show and, just sharing your experiences and your thoughts.
Yeah.
So to close out, do you have any words of encouragement or advice for the listeners?
Let's see. Well, before I do that, going back to what you were saying just now, the schools that were not international schools when I was there, they were, like you're saying, all on one, like every school in the country was at the same pace for the grade levels. So I noticed that was going on. It was just the international schools that were different. But yeah, as far as the listeners, what I try to do is update myself as much as possible, checking out new things. One thing about that experience teaching at the international school is I learned about international education, and then different ways of teaching, like the concept, like teaching based on concepts, not just the material, and not just teaching, okay, this is what you're learning, this is how you do it, but also what is the concept that you're learning, so that they can just take the thing and think for themselves and come up with new ideas. So just pushing things like that.
I like that. Yeah. You're looking in the mirror and you reflect on yourself to essentially, do better than yesterday.
Yeah.
I like that. That's really good. Updating yourself. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. That's a wrap for today. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more. And Jonovan, thank you for coming on to the show. You take care, okay?
Thanks.